If you thought flip-flop Starmer was a worry in number 10, just look who he'll be taking into office with him. Bacon sandwich eating supremo and eco-activist Ed Miliband, who the Sun newspaper today report lavished praise on Extinction Rebellion protesters all the way back in 2019. The shadow climate change secretary, whose radical plans for the environment get me hot under the collar, lavished praise on the eco-yops for the fantastic success of their exciting activism. He added, "I think it is incredibly well thought through and incredibly important that it's sustained and deepened." That is a quote. As the Sun points out, Miliband was well aware at the time that Extinction Rebellion had already unleashed mayhem on our streets, causing criminal damage by blocking bridges, roads and even Parliament itself. And he wanted more. Not only do you have to worry about a Labour government yielding to the union's inflation-busting demands, which is inevitable given the fact that they bankroll the party, not only do you have to worry about an increase in public spending in a country that already lives beyond its means, but a rabid, frothing eco-agenda might just finish this country off altogether. Now, fair play to the impressive Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who has done a screeching U-turn on their crazy idea of spending £28 billion a year, every year, on a so-called green revolution. An idea which was, you guessed it, the brainchild of Ed Miliband, a man who double-crossed his own brother to run for the Labour Party leadership and ultimately did such a bad job as leader of the opposition, he lost an election to a massively unpopular David Cameron. Miliband's brother David was a shoo-in for the Labour leadership, and I admired him. He was a centrist in the mould of Blair and would likely have reached number 10. Instead, Red Ed, as he was labelled by the tabloid press, given his left-leaning instincts, ultimately prevailed. Well, Red Ed is now Green Ed, and his ideological net zero ambitions look set to panic voters and could derail Labour's electoral prospects. To destroy a political party once is unfortunate, twice is careless. Keir Starmer has already had to U-turn on banning new oil and gas licences in the North Sea, which probably has Ed Miliband fuming. Now, it's very clear that voters want to clean up the planet. Most people are concerned about climate change and bringing emissions down. Who doesn't want cleaner air and less pollution? And green investment potentially brings jobs, energy security and economic growth. But it's about the pace of change. And it's about doing it properly and sensibly, rather than the hysterical approach of the likes of Miliband, who will have you believe the planet will have burnt down by next Tuesday. We saw that kind of hysteria around COVID, and look at the damage it's done. Well, an unchecked, maniacal green agenda will be like lockdowns times 100, especially in terms of its impact on society, our quality of life and the economy. When it comes to the science around global warming, my mind is open, and I would pitch for something I'm calling smart net zero, or smart zero if you prefer, which charts a course towards lower emissions, but done with public consent, through democratic means, and with the interests of the British economy and the British people at its very heart. From where I'm sitting at the moment, Labour's eco-plans look to involve endless borrowing and higher costs for British consumers, whether it's green taxes on fuel and electricity, expensive and unreliable heat pump boilers, or electric cars that you need a second mortgage to pay for. I'm not the only one pushing for this idea of smart zero, which combines both the national interest and the future of the planet. Ultra-woke President Joe Biden, when he's not having a nap, has declined to set any kind of net zero target for America and has continued to approve new oil and gas drilling in Alaska. And don't forget, America is the Saudi Arabia of fracking. Bizarrely, we've signed a deal to import shale gas from the United States, even though we've got shale, oil, coal and gas here in the UK. Make it make sense. Meanwhile, the French President Emmanuel Macron has said that Europe has gone far enough in passing laws to cut carbon emissions. The EU have done a U-turn on axing petrol and diesel cars, and Germany is tackling their energy crisis by, wait for it, reopening coal mines for thermal coal. The tide is turning on net zero mania, particularly given the fact that countries like Brazil, India, the United States and China continue to burn fossil fuels for fun. But the Labour shadow cabinet didn't get the memo. Be careful what you wish for. Go woke, no smoke. Bringing down emissions is a worthy aim, but it must be done smartly and over time, with all countries pulling their weight. Labour's race to net zero is a race to the bottom.